Awesome. Now let's go with Lise Renske the Boer. Says, "Hi Abe, I appreciate your help within the game art community and thank you so much for all your content. I would love some guidance on my portfolio. I'm aware there's not much yet, but I'm working on that already. I've been doing game art for 2 years as a student and searching for an internship so I can graduate. My goal is props for games, and next to that, I'm experimenting my thoughts on creatures with toothless. Possibly still in the making. Not sure if I'll finish it in time. Any feedback to get the most of the potential of my portfolio is greatly appreciated." Let's take a look. Okay, so first thing I would say, Lise, is if you're not going to be doing 2D art, just take this one out. You don't need to show 2D art because these things that I see right here, these drawings, they're not bad. Like, I understand there's, of course, things to improve, but it's not 3D, right? So I actually got that little confusion right here because when you share your portfolio, you're always going to see this thing right here. So it looks like it's 2D, and then we see 3D art, and again, that can be a little bit confusing. So just take it out. You can just use like a basic template if you need to, or grab one of your scenes if you want. What I did, and you guys probably seen it, like I changed my banner a couple of days ago. I just did this. So it's my logo and a couple of my favorite characters, and that's it. So when I share my portfolio, you're going to see this. You're going to see this little banner right there. So this one right here, okay. Models are very boxy here, Lise, as well. They're very, very boxy. I like the fact that we have a full environment, and I like the fact that you're including this in like Unreal. This concept breakdown is very, very nice. But the models are very boxy. Very, very, very boxy. So, for instance, if we take a look at the chair or the table, it doesn't look like a sci-fi table. It doesn't look like something that we could find in like, you know, like a Mass Effect game or like a Half-Life or something like that. That's one tip that I always like to give you guys. If you are working on something, always check what it's being done on the industry, right? So if we look, for instance, at Half-Life Alyx, and we take a look at the level of detail that the environments have, right? This is our competition right now. This is the level of quality that people are expecting. So it's very, very important that we use this as our quality bar. And if we see that, for instance, a gun inside of the game is very high poly and it has a lot of like interesting silhouette and things like that, then if we're doing a gun, we should try to do something like that. Again, if you take a look at the environment, nothing looks voxy. There's always a lot of like construction going on, and there's things just making this a lot more interesting. So that is what we're missing right here, Liz. We are missing a little bit of that complexity. Like the wall looks very flat. The plastic looks fine, but look at these boxes, right? So if you're doing like a cardboard box, and you go for like an old cardboard box, you're going to see that something that happens quite frequently is that there's a lot of change in silhouette. Look at that, right? There's bends, there's like wrinkles, things curve out and they taper in different directions. So doing a box like this, for instance, or even something like this is way, way more interesting than doing a box that looks very, very boxy, right? So it's those details in silhouette, details in styles that you need to keep in mind to make sure that things pop a little bit more, okay? Let's go to the next one here. This one looks very good. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This is complexity on the actual assets. This is what we want. Mustafa, thanks for the sub, my friend. So this is looking way, way better. This is an asset that I could definitely see on the game. It's looking quite nice. I like the texture differentiation. I like the material breakdowns. I'm not sure that this thing should be rusted. Usually I think it was like a plastic or something, so it looks a little bit weird being rusted. I love the fact that you made a little scene for this. Just a table, there's like a cane back there, and there's this thing. Now, let me just tell you something about that cane. There's a concept in digital painting and in photography called tangents. Have you guys heard about tangents? They're called tangents. And a tangent is a point where an object touches another object, right? They cross, you get these lines right here, and they generate an overlap that makes the depth go away, okay? So because these two things are touching right here, even though the cane is further back in the scene, it makes it look like it's further, or it's a lot closer to us on the scene. So what we need to do here is just move the cane a little bit so that we don't have the tangent, so that we have a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of space, as you can see right there. And that way, it's going to look like the cane is back there and the phone is forward, right? Like closer to us. That's a very, very important thing. You always need to look up for this because they can really make or break things. Here's another one. And this is the tricky thing about tangents, that you can find them everywhere. So for instance, here we have this wooden beam on the back, right? This line. that line right there, and it's literally going across this main shape of the phone. So that creates a little bit of a tangent. Thanks to the fact that this is blurred, we don't see it as much. But if we just eliminated that line, you're gonna see how the phone sort of like jumps forward a lot more, and it's a lot easier to appreciate that like the general form, right? So see that? Eliminating that like a line right there like makes the phone sort of like push forward a bit more. It's called tangents. So whenever you're dealing with composition, when you're planning your shot, always look for these tangents, places where objects overlap each other. If they need to overlap, or if you cannot avoid something overlapping something else, the best advice I can give you is fully commit to it. So avoid, like for instance here on the cane was like barely touching that thing. Like literally move the cane and move it in such a way that it's literally across this thing, right? That way the overlap is very clear. It's very easy to understand where one element is and where the other element is, and that makes for a better composition. This is great, Lise. This is the kind of stuff that we need to do. I would encourage you to do more of this like level of quality for the models. Now, one thing that we need to include though, if you can, is again a breakdown of the wireframe and a breakdown of the UVs. That's always very useful for recruiters to know that that you're following or doing things properly. This wireframe is perfect. Really, really good. I don't know how many triangles we have. I don't get the number right here, but it's quite, I would say it's quite efficient. We can always delete a couple of lines. So for instance, some of these lines, they're not doing much for the silhouette, so we could potentially simplify or eliminate them. But yeah, this is as kind of evidente saying right here, this is definitely portfolio material. Like this is the bare minimum level that I would expect anyone graduating from any 3D program to be able to do. Like if I'm working on the studio and I tell one of my artists, hey, I need you to do an old telephone, a vintage telephone, and I give them the concept piece or the art, this is the minimum level that I'm expecting back without me having to teach them anything. Once you give me this, now I can teach you more stuff. Now we can add a little bit more complexity on the materials. We can play a little bit more with maybe some of the silhouettes or some of the modeling. There's more things that we can add on top, but this is like a really good sort of like level to start with.